Over 2 million. 2,041,360 to be exact. That is the number of cybersecurity incidents tracked by CERT-In India in 2024 alone. I mean, if you break that down, we're talking about roughly 4 cyber incidents happening every single minute. Just let that massive scale sink in for a second. We aren't talking about isolated, rare events anymore. We're looking at a world where digital threats are just a constant, everyday reality for literally all of us.
So, welcome to this explainer. I am absolutely thrilled to have you here today because we're going to build a sort of mental filing cabinet for modern cyber threats. We'll be taking a deliberate academic look at how to classify, understand, and, ultimately defend against these attacks. All right, let's jump right in and map out exactly how we're going to navigate this whole landscape.
Here's our quick roadmap for today. First, the cybercrime epidemic. Then we'll look at the 4-lens classification model, followed by computer and mobile attacks, crimes against people, financial frauds and scams. And finally, we'll wrap up with the golden hour response. Okay, Section 1, the cybercrime epidemic. To kick things off, we really need to frame exactly why cybercrimes are fundamentally different from traditional crimes. Like, why is it so much harder to investigate a digital break-in compared to a physical one? Well, the digital underworld is just incredibly complex and moves insanely fast. For starters, it's completely borderless. The offender, the victim, and the server could literally all be sitting in completely different countries. Then, there's the sheer speed of it all. Funds can jump through a dozen accounts in a matter of minutes. Plus, attribution is notoriously tricky because criminals are hiding behind fake SIMs, VPNs, and compromised devices. And on top of that, evidence is super fragile. Chats, logs, user profiles, they can all vanish with a single keystroke. Finally, there's the massive scale. A single automated phishing script can target tens of thousands of people all at once. Moving on to Section 2, the 4-lens classification model. So with all that crazy complexity, how do we actually make sense of it? Let's introduce this academic framework that's really going to anchor the rest of our explainer today. Now, what's really interesting about this model is how it elegantly categorizes every single threat into 4 distinct lenses. It makes it so much easier to pinpoint the core motive. First, we have the computer as the target. Think of a ransomware attack locking down a hospital system. Second is the computer as a tool, where tech is used to commit traditional crimes like forgery. Third is the person-centric lens, where digital platforms are basically weaponized to harm someone's dignity. And finally, the financial or economic lens, where the primary goal is, you guessed it, stealing money. Pretty much every cybercrime you encounter is going to fit somewhere into this framework. Which brings us to our formal definition of cybercrime. We're talking about unlawful acts where a digital device, a network, or an identity is either the target of an attack, the tool used to commit an offense, or the medium through which harm is caused. And notice how we're not just saying hacking. Modern cases often blend human psychology, fake identities, and digital payments way more than they rely on pure technical coding. All right, Section 3. Computer and mobile attacks. Let's zoom in on those first 2 lenses and focus on the technological targets that are probably the most relevant to your daily lives as university students. When we contrast these 2 battlegrounds, the impacts look distinctly different, but they're honestly equally devastating. On a computer or network level, you might see a DDoS, a distributed denial of service attack, taking down your university's exam registration portal right when you desperately need to log in. But on a mobile level, it's highly personal. We're talking about falling for a malicious app download or a SIM swap scam that lets an attacker steal your one-time passwords right out from under you. So, think about your own smartphone for a second. Why do you think mobile devices have become the absolute highest value targets for attackers today? Just take a moment to really consider what's on that screen. It's because your smartphone is essentially a single point of failure. I mean, it consolidates your banking, your social life, your private camera roll, your live location, and those crucial SMS messages used for 2-factor authentication. Because it literally holds the keys to your entire digital identity, securing it by strictly managing your app permissions and only ever downloading from official stores is absolutely critical. Moving to Section 4, crimes against people. Now we're going to shift our pacing a bit to a more serious, human-centric focus. This is where technology intersects directly with human dignity and personal safety. We have to ask, what happens when a device isn't just used to steal data, but is actually weaponized to target a person's psychological well-being? This is a harsh reality that we have to confront objectively and educationally. These are crimes against people, particularly affecting women and children, and they are happening every single day on messaging apps, gaming platforms, and social media. We're talking about cyberstalking, cyberbullying, the highly disturbing rise of deepfakes and image abuse used for extortion, and doxing, which is when someone malicious publishes your private data like your home or college address online. And we must also categorically highlight the severe danger of online grooming and the distribution of CSAM, heinous crimes that exploit the most vulnerable among us and demand immediate law enforcement intervention.
So, the crucial takeaway here is action. If you or someone you know ever faces this, never delete the chats out of fear or embarrassment. Seriously, do not retaliate and absolutely never pay an extortion demand. Instead, you need to take screenshots, preserve the URLs, block the user only after you've captured the evidence, and report it immediately to authorities through portals like cybercrime.gov.in.
Okay, let's pivot to Section 5, Financial Frauds and Scams. We're looking at the economic lens now, which happens to be the fastest growing category of cybercrime affecting everyday digital consumers today. To really understand financial fraud, you have to understand its underlying mechanism, which is social engineering. This isn't about some hacker sitting in a dark room cracking software. It's about hacking the human mind. It's the art of tricking a person into revealing information or taking a specific action by manipulating their trust, their fear, a sense of extreme urgency, or even their greed.
Let's look at some exact red flags you should be watching out for in your daily digital transactions to avoid falling victim. For instance, in a UPI Collect scam, you might be told to enter your PIN to receive money. But remember, a UPI PIN is only ever needed to send money, literally never to receive it. Or take the terrifying digital arrest scam, where fake police on a video call demand an immediate payment. Real law enforcement is never, ever going to arrest you over Skype or a WhatsApp video call. These traps rely entirely on that social engineering we just talked about.
That brings us to our final part, Section 6, the golden hour response. We're going to anchor all this academic theory into some real-world survival skills. If a financial fraud does occur, you have to execute the golden hour response. In cyber financial fraud, every single minute matters when it comes to freezing those funds. Step 1, call the 1930 National Helpline immediately. Step 2, inform your bank or payment app. Step 3, file your official complaint on the National Cybercrime Portal. And Step 4, preserve every single transaction ID, screenshot, and phone number involved. Speed is your absolute best defense here. Let's tie all of this back to your own digital footprint. You've got proactive measures, things like using unique passwords, turning on multi-factor authentication, and avoiding those unknown app downloads. But you also need your reactive measures locked in tight. You need to know not to delete evidence, to completely refuse to pay extortion demands, and to execute those golden hour steps without a second of hesitation. I want to leave you with this final provocative thought. In cyberspace, the human is both the strongest defense and the primary target. You now have the academic framework and the practical tools to protect your digital life. The real question is, how are you going to apply this classification model to fortify your own digital footprint starting today? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Stay curious and stay secure out there.